Hi, and welcome to the next video in this series on how to make a good PBL. Again, my name's Austin Farrell, and in this video, we're going to be talking about your public product. In our previous video, we discussed the first of four fundamental elements of a good PBL, which was creating your challenging problem or driving question. All right. In this video, we're talking about our public product and particularly focusing on a product map. That product map is going to help you figure out when do you incorporate the content for your unit? When do you incorporate critique and revision and sustained inquiry, those other important elements of a PBL? So just to make sure we're all on the same page as far as what is a public product, I've included a definition below. In summary, a public product is the end goal and the main driver of your PBL. So the public product or project is not just what your students are going to have finished by the end of the PBL unit, but it is what students are working on from the start of the PBL unit to the end of the PBL unit. It is the driver of content. Students are going to learn what is relevant to complete this product. Now, this can be a challenge to us as educators, teachers, people who are excited about our content areas, because I can tell you as a physics teacher, there is a lot of information that I think it is important for students to know and that I think students should know as it relates to physics. But the challenge in a PBL unit is that we want to make sure that the content we're teaching is the content that is relevant to complete the public product. All right. So you really have to scope your content for the purpose of the public product. And the way you determine what content you teach is by deciding what do students need to know to make or complete this public product or project. On this slide, I've included a list of public product possibilities that you can have students work on. Now, again, these would be particularly mentioned, specifically mentioned in your driving question. I'm going to move my image out the way just so you can see all of these. Go ahead, pause the video if you want to take a picture of these or write them down. All right. So in this video, I want you to walk away knowing how to make a product map. Okay. So a product map is essentially a backwards plan of all the steps needed to create your public product. Because when you start your PBL unit, you want to have a clear vision for all the steps that students will need to take to get to their public product. Because again, from the beginning of the PBL unit, they are going to be working on these incremental steps to get to their public product. All right. We want to avoid having a 2-week period at the end of the unit to work on our products or projects. We want the product or project to be done by the time we get to the end of the unit. All right. And we want students to work on different aspects of the product during the course of the PBL unit. Okay. As they learn new information, they should be applying it to their product. And we're going to get more into that, how to plan that in the next couple videos in this series. But for now, let's go ahead and make a product map. Now, at the bottom right corner of my screen, you may or may not be able to see it. I have one of the driving questions that I've used in one of my previous PBLs. It's a driving question that we talked about in our previous video on driving questions. And the driving question reads as follows. As clothing designers, what is the most effective winter blanket we can create to protect homeless citizens in the city of Detroit from the cold? All right. Now, the public product is clearly mentioned in my driving question. It is what is the most effective winter blanket we can create? So we are making a winter blanket. Now I need to backwards plan all the steps that are going to need to be taken by my students in order to make the most effective winter blanket. All right, so let's go ahead and start walking through this. So the final product is a blanket. Okay, again, we are backwards planning. So we're starting at the end goal and working to the first thing we need to do. So a blanket is layers of material sewn together. All right, this might seem very elementary, but we need to know what is required to have the blanket. This means that my students will actually need to sew this blanket. So I know already I'm going to have to find time in my PBL unit for my students to sew. Students also need to choose materials if they're going to make a blanket and sew materials together. All right. Now, this part of my public product gets into the most effective blanket part of my driving question. All right. In order to make the most effective blanket, my students need to choose the best heat transfer materials. All right. So, again, we're backwards planning. All right. That means students are going to have to test materials for heat transfer characteristics. All right. And students are going to need to know what are heat transfer characteristics. Okay. So again, we backwards planned to figure out how we get to the most effective winter blanket. We started at, and we can actually, move forward through the process just to double check ourselves. So students are going to have to know what are heat transfer characteristics. They're going to test materials to figure out to figure out which materials have the best performance as it relates to those characteristics. They're going to choose the best heat transfer materials, sew those together, and make their blanket. Okay. So again, backwards planning, and we can see all the steps we need to go through to get our final product. Now, this product map is going to be what we use to map on what our content is. Okay.